It's easy to forget because the news has been relatively crazy recently, but MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell recently officially announced that he had filed his paperwork and he is actually running for governor of Minnesota against incumbent Democrat Tim Walz. Now, before Lindell can even get to that point, right, he has to get through the Republican primary and become the nominee. And he has started his campaign. And I want you to think of how crazy you think the campaign would be, okay? Get that image in your head of how crazy you think a political campaign involving Mike Lindell as the candidate would be, okay? Now I want you to take that scenario of how crazy it is and multiply it by 1,000. Because that's where we're at, just days into Mike Lindell's actual campaign for governor. See, Lindell officially kicked it off this past Friday by going on Steve Bannon's podcast. And he announced effectively that his platform to be the governor is, I'm going to put all the Democrats in jail. And, I'm going to get rid of all the voting machines. But more importantly, prison, 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 Lindell said. Here's how the conversation went down. Now, of course, they were discussing the alleged Somalian daycare fraud taking place in Minnesota, for which we still don't have any actual evidence of, but okay. Not saying it's not happening. I'm just saying the evidence that it's happening doesn't exist. The evidence was that a creepy Republican with a camera and his friend named David weren't allowed to go into a daycare. Yeah, sounds about right. But they use that as justification to say, obviously, there's tons of fraud. So anyway, Lindell was talking about that, and he said, if you did something which we think you did, anyone involved in this, prison, 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 and deport, 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 deport. So off to a super crazy start. Then Bannon said, he's saying, talking about Tim Walz, Mike Lindell's going to put me in prison. I would say that's a guy that's a little concerned. And Lindell said, he's very worried and he very much fears change and fears him being put in prisons. What I'm thinking, put in prisons. So Tim Walz, if Mike Lindell becomes governor, is not just going to prison, he's going to go to multiple prisons. I don't know. I don't even know how that works. Like, do you just move him from one to the other so that it is prisons plural? Or do you chop him in half and put part of him over here, the other part? I don't know. That's Mike Lindell for you, folks. But then Steve Bannon says, well, he wondered if Lindell would also imprison Attorney General Keith Ellison, whom he called a radical Muslim. And that's when Lindell went totally bonkers and said, well, it all starts with criminals, stolen elections, and absolutely prosecute, prosecute, prosecute. The whole public's going to know every day, hey, look what we just found. This person's going to go to prison. This is going to prison. This one's going to prison. These people are getting deported. Yeah, you guys we need help right now. Yeah, you damn sure do, buddy. You really do. You really need help right now. I promise you every dime we will win this and we will change the course we're on. I'm going to be posting all the solutions I have, all the problems. Donate, donate, donate. How about mental health care, mental health care, mental health care? I have, for many years, enjoyed sitting here and mocking Mike Lindell. But at the same time, by doing it, by making light of this situation, I am, of course, doing him a grave disservice. In my opinion, which I'm not a medical professional, but I'm also not a moron, in my opinion, Mike Lindell is deeply, deeply disturbed. He does not need to be governor. He does not need to be the CEO of a pillow company. He needs psychiatric care. And I'm talking about in a facility where he should not be allowed to leave. Because that rant that I just read to you basically makes him sound like an escaped mental patient. Like he somehow slipped through the bars, got out of the facility, and now he's terrorizing the townsfolk. But that's what I firmly believe about this man. I believe there's something wrong. And it could be the past drug use just totally fried his brain. That's also a possibility. But that also means he needs even more help. Because again, as I have to say very frequently now about so many people I discuss on here, this isn't normal behavior. And it's time for the entire country to wake up and realize none of these people are acting normal. It's not normal for a 79-year-old man to post 89 separate times on social media in the span of an hour in the early AM on a Monday. But that happened yesterday. These things are not normal. And we need to all come together collectively and admit that and do better with the people we put into office. Scientists recently discovered a new evolutionary trait in puppies, and it's that they cannot grow up and reach their full potential unless you subscribe to this channel. Don't do it for me, folks. Do it for little Atlas and Judge here. Good boys. You do good. You want to say something? No? Okay.